Arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where
the type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
Show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tuesday night of sports nonsense and whiskey. Hanging with the fellas, got the champ in the building. How we doing, everybody?
Yeah, let's
Pinky,
go!
Robert.
Caleb, the champ representing. Let's go, homie. How's it going, my guy?
Doing well. It was a rough night. You know, had to outlast a couple of people, but in the end, I made sure the people knew what was what. Cheers, my guy.
I'll punch you in the dick.
I love it. I have been waiting. This is amazing.
He beat me.
Cheers to you for pulling that off, man.
What am I gonna do?
Cheers to you.
Give him a little what's what. What's happening right
now?
You
Caleb,
guys tell the story. This is your story time.
So, Pinky's birthday Saturday. Fabulous time. A lot of wonderful people were able to make it out and celebrate the big bear there. And there was some poking, you know. Everybody did a little prodding and poking, and he dressed as Mr. Cena himself. He had the belt around his shoulder all night. And at some point, Pinky looked at me and said, Caleb, I can't say no to people getting me birthday shots. And I said, it's your birthday. That's not a bad problem to have. Well, as the night progressed, that proceeded to cause some damage to the champ. Oof. And, you know, I saw an opportunity.
He got taken down, and he didn't even know.
I stepped in. The champ went down and had to be dragged out of the arena. And, you know, he left some valuables behind that I decided would be confiscated for a period of time.
It was that bad knee. I got to work on that. Got to rehab it. I'll get that knee back in shape, and I'll be ready for round 2. Don't worry.
Robert's words that will live in my head forever now, and one of the funniest things I've heard in a very long time. I've never seen anybody go nonverbal.
Hey, Pinky, because I can't. I couldn't even comprehend the amount of drinks that would take to become nonverbal, because I talk a lot and you talk a lot. Damn. So, okay.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Let's go.
Mr. Parker, welcome, Mr. Parker.
What's up, ladies and Pinky?
So, Caleb, I didn't realize that this was gonna be a Pinky like roast session because I've got some things to throw his way this evening too. So this is great.
Roasting.
This is great.
I just, wanted to make sure he understood that the belt was in safe hands and
Okay,
going to
well,
be
that's
well
good.
taken care of from here on.
Well, the safe hands not being the champ himself. So Caleb, wait a he has to at some point figure out how to get that back, and that's going to be some work.
Oh,
It was not easy, sir. There's many times I wanted to just be like, I might have it, but I couldn't help myself.
It's fine. I had just an inkling because Courtney kept telling me that she was confident I'd get the belt back, and she was confident someone had gotten it, and that was it. That's all she'd say.
Well, Courtney should have kept.
Somebody had
shut.
to have gotten it.
That's too much given away, but still, I think it worked out all right.
You earned it, friend. You earned it. You earned it.
That was great.
Pretty good.
So nice.
Pretty good. All right.
He's so nice taking it like a champ.
I earned it. I earned it.
You did. You absolutely did. Which Pinky, I am gonna throw a gauntlet your way too because I've been holding this all week for you because this happens in 2 days and you have to put on your big people pants to handle this. So I need you to grow
More
up
like
a little
brown
bit.
pants.
I need you to take it back to, before the streaming days when people actually, gave a shit about TV. Invincible starts this Thursday, my man. And while Caleb doesn't care, your challenge, sir, is to watch this weekly and we will discuss it.
Weekly, he says.
I haven't
So-
even finished season 2 yet.
Sounds like you have some work to do.
A little bit.
I'll take that challenge. I'll take that challenge.
Time to catch up, buddy. Let's go.
R.I.P. your sleep schedule.
Listen, Cam, I don't even want to hear from you, mister. I'm finally watching The Bad Batch. So, unless you
Look.
finally finished it.
I plan to finish it either tomorrow or Thursday, but I at least appreciate the fact that, the episodes are short. They appreciate that. They're about 20,
And there's more than 10 episodes.
and there's definitely more than 10 episodes. I think the problem is I started it, a bit later than, a normal human being probably would in the day, starting The Bad Batch at about 11 o'clock at night and then watching the entire first season in 16 episodes
That's a challenge.
was probably a bad idea. So
No.
I don't recommend that on anyone.
I would
But
do it. 10 out of 10 recommend.
But nonetheless, it will get done. I also finished Penguin, so we're good.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a great
All right,
show.
before we get too far, I got to
Go
jump
Big
back
Red.
in real quick. Maybe. I'm being generous tonight. Go Big Red. Sure. Let's go.
Wow.
That's how you do it, right? Like that.
That was
right.
so off-putting. It was
I don't
like
know.
I'm only wearing red to represent my boys, so no.
I don't know about you,
still,
Caleb.
Still
but
go
like,
green.
I don't know about you, Caleb, but that seemed pretty nonchalant for you. Like I'm gonna need like a full actually
Go Big Red. You mean like that?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so-
He'll
easy.
be fine when he does it in Lincoln. I'm not too worried about it.
It's okay. Michigan State still has the win on you guys. So until you beat me again, it's okay.
So, look, I just got to say thank you to everybody who came out to the Royal Rumble Bash. From what I hear, everybody had a great time. From what I remember, it was a good time. So,
what he remembers.
yeah, you had to be there, Cam. You had to be there, buddy. It was a rough one.
The best part maybe was when everyone hyped Pinky up to punch the punching bag arcade machine, and he just baby tapped it and then went through the machine, and Caleb and I were like, this is not. We tried to stop it, and it just happened anyway. And there is a video. I don't know if Pinky has it, but it's epic.
My wife,
It's fantastic.
I believe
My
the
wife
wife
has
owns the rights to that right now, which is probably not the best hand.
she has
in all
3
certain
videos that she could
situations.
cut together of the punching bag, me forgetting how to sit in a chair,
Oh yeah.
and then at some point I realized the Royal Rumble was on and started yeeting.
You did that several times, and you're like, "Oh, hey, there's wrestling on," and then you just left. So it's okay.
So it was a great night had by all.
Caleb and I had fun watching wrestling, as well as Ron, which we'll have to get him on because he had some very hot takes.
I did rewatch it, so we'll have to talk about that. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that came out because it was a blast.
Good time. Very good time. Cheers, my guy. Happy birthday again.
Yep. Happy belated.
And now I got to challenge you for my belt back, sir. So we'll have to make that happen.
Yeah, we'll discuss.
Where do we want to go? Do we want to talk the Rumble, or where do we want to go?
Yeah,
Well,
get the Rumble out of the way because it's given everything to discuss this week. It's the most small of things.
Favoritism is real in the WWE.
I mean, it's always real. Cam,
Penta was out.
Are you up to the Royal Rumble? Do you know?
I knew what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm indifferent. I mean, like I'm actually more happy about the fact that, Jimmy Uso won the Rumble. Or sorry, Jay Uso won the Rumble. Like I'm happy about it. Like I just think that, given everything based on the storyline of the Bloodline in general and him being, kicked out and everything and the way that it, all inspired and causing him to basically be solo, pun intended. But like, I just think that, the way that they did it, I thought was actually well done. And I also like the fact that it also goes to show you how good a human being John Cena is, also as an entertainer, realizing the moment and that the moment wasn't necessarily about him in that moment. And he actually gifted it to the opportunity of a guy who probably deserved that moment far more than he did.
Absolutely.
So,
actually, as I rewatched it, because I had to rewatch it Monday night, because I
didn't watch any of it. Let's be real.
I spent time entertaining multiple different groups of friends. I had a lot of different groups of people, work people, friends, gym friends. Like there was a whole groups of them. So I didn't watch it. So I had to rewatch. When I rewatched it, I really took notice that John Cena took a lot of dudes like best moves. Like he was like the punching bag, it seemed like. And that kind of goes along with what you're saying of him being a good dude, good entertainer, letting all the other guys shine. And then again, at the finish, letting Jay shine again. So totally agree with that.
Pinky, let me ask you this. What is with all the hate that Jay is getting for being the winner? Like the amount of people I'm seeing who are still
Cena's
mad and they're like,
tour.
John Cena should have won and this, that, and the other. And like, dude, that would have been, first of all, you know how I feel about obvious storylines and ridiculous things. Like he just comes back there, wins that, didn't earn it after talking about it and this, that, and the other. It would have been foolish, right? But then there's like another caveat of people who just really think Jay doesn't deserve it, which is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with those folks at all. Jay has earned it. Jay is one of the, like when you watch a Jay Uso match, love him or hate him, they're entertaining matches. Like he's a great wrestler. So and I feel like I gravitate more to those guys. It's like whether I love them or hate them, I know I'm going to watch a really good match. Logan Paul, prime example. I'm a Logan Paul guy. He's probably a scumbag out of the ring.
It's not probably.
Ring,
he is, man.
But when he's in the
there's
ring,
no debate.
He really throws it out, and he does some amazing things in the ring that at least goes, wow.
Yeah.
I entertain watching him, whether he's getting his ass beat or he's beating ass, like one of the two.
Whoa.
He's fun to watch. But the only thing I had an issue with Cena, though.
You said it out loud, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I'll listen to that again.
That's what she said.
John Cena, the way he got knocked out, I didn't like that. I understood why they did it that way because it protected him from getting hurt. He didn't get thrown over and hit the ring or land on his knees funky or any of that. He was just kind of on the outside and he got kind of pushed and off the apron. It saves him
Holler
some
at
injury.
Cena though for his post Royal Rumble presser.
That
I
was
mean,
a great.
creme
That
de
was
la
great.
creme of pressers, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of months here going into the summer. And if you haven't seen it, just go watch it. We're not going to break it down right now because it's a packed show, but it was.
I will say at one point in the men's Rumble, like the last 8 dudes, you could argue were almost all Hall of Famers. At some point, they're going to all be Hall of Famers, and they were all in the ring at that time. Robert, you were right. Penta was out, but they had just started, and they had already organized 40 minutes of Penta doing stuff. They would have had to change up everything if they'd have been like, "No, you're out."
Well, your boy screwed up.
That's why they
Pinky.
let it roll.
The spotlight was
did.
slightly too big for him in the moment, and he didn't handle business the way he needed to. Hopefully, he learns and everything's good going forward. But
after that mistake,
I said it to Robert. As soon as it happened, I looked at Robert. I go, his foot touched. I looked at Ron. I go, that wasn't good. He goes, did I really see that? I go, absolutely.
Yeah.
I looked at somebody else and I
All
said, we
three
should have
of
been
us
watching
were
that
like,
in
nah.
2K, not 4K.
It was
They're
Mark.
never going to
It
be able
was
to hide
Mark.
that.
It was Mark. Yeah, no, we all talked about it. It was like, no way. We all watched it, and it was like, that just happened. And they let it slide, too. They had video evidence. The cameraman failed. The cameraman failed.
So, that was good.
The cameraman absolutely failed. He was like right on his foot.
Yep, it was the cameraman. It was all his fault.
I think they did at least a decent job of having both the women's Rumble and the men's Rumble be completely different types of matches. And the men's Rumble, sometimes there are only 4 dudes in the ring. Like people were getting eliminated pretty quick. The women's Rumble, there was like 15 in at one time. Like it was packed. And I like the way that it kind of makes both of those matches different. So I thought that was good. I'm not as huge a fan of Charlotte coming in and winning.
Yeah.
But
that was
Charlotte's awesome. And she's WrestleMania, but you give an FU to someone, Caleb? What's going on? That's a friend's FU. FU to
That's
Charlotte.
right. You know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm not happy with.
Yeah. I mean, I like Charlotte. I just I don't know if I would have liked her to win. You wanted Alexa? I don't think she was going to come back and win either, but
Alexa.
I didn't need to see her get tossed out by you know who.
Right. I agree with that.
There's that.
So that was a lot of fun. The women's match was great as an opener. I didn't go back and watch the tag team match. I could care less. But
the tag
I
team
did
match
watch
was
the
boring.
Cody
No
Rhodes.
one cared.
Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes.
That was painful.
I was really worried about their well-being.
That hurt.
Some of the times when they hit those ladders in certain angles, I was like, it doesn't matter who you are. That really hurts.
The 2 ladder bombs
really hurt.
That got tossed from the announcer's platform, the announcer's desk, whatever you want to call it, where it's just across that to the ring and then just open space below it. Like both of those were.
Now,
you felt them.
The finisher. You could tell when they put it in slow-mo, you could tell there's a little crack in the ladder.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You know the ladder
but, I mean,
was
you're
set
still
to break at that
landing
spot.
on that.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's metal.
Thing.
Like, that still hurts.
My head hurts.
He had to have knocked himself out. There's no way you go through a ladder like that and you're not writhing in pain right after. Like, he was motionless. There is no way he didn't knock himself out on that.
It was pretty brutal.
And the word is
brutal.
Kevin Owens, again, took all of that like a champ. He actually orchestrated the match. He's the one that came up with all of that.
Yeah.
So he's getting a lot of credit in the locker room for one, orchestrating it and delivering with that brutality. Both of those guys, they were just awesome.
Agreed.
So
agreed.
Really good match. And we'll see what happens. Kevin Owens is continuing on his. I'm so mad at you right now. I just got rage inside of me. All right. Should we talk? Where should we go next? I know we've got a lot of trade stuff to talk about.
Hey, soccer, real quick. Stuttgart won the
soccer,
quarterfinal. Let's go.
Go
For
Stuttgart.
the
Stuttgart.
DFB Pokal, so that's exciting. Semifinals will be next week, I believe.
Sadly, soccer's not a real sport. Sadly.
Listen, Cam.
Whoa, easy,
It is a
easy,
real
Cam.
sport. More people watch soccer than football, so sorry. Until you can, actually hold that over my head, football doesn't come close. And it's not the world championship or whatever they fucking call that bullshit at the Super Bowl. Like,
Hey,
get the fuck
hold
out
on,
of here.
hold on.
It's definitely the World Championship. If there was other teams,
When
that were
one
competitive
country
enough to
fucking
cover the
plays,
team-
sure.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
listening to that foreign bullshit argument. Like, plain and simple, if
Robert?
you were good enough to compete and win against an NFL
So
team,
so 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 so
you would be
is
competing
so then
against an NFL team.
So then let me put it. So then what you're saying on that grounds is when we all play in the World Cup, is that the Universal World Cup instead of it a World Cup? Like, come on, man. It's bullshit.
No, it's just let's deal in
It's
reality.
not a
and
world
facts, Robert.
championship when it's
No.
one fucking
Robert,
country.
Robert,
Let's
why-
deal in
why-
reality and facts. Real quick. If there was another football team, if there was another basketball team, if there was another baseball team in the world that was good enough to beat any of those champions, they would play those champions. And on top of that, all those players from around the world that start off in all those other leagues wouldn't end up in those leagues as their ultimate prize if those other leagues were competitive and comparable.
It's
So,
still played
yes,
in one country.
They get they have the right to say world champion regardless of whether or not they're competing against the lower class leagues to win.
One country.
Ridiculous.
Look, Robert,
it's such
one
a silly
country.
There
argument.
are so many people that watch soccer. It's also because most of the undeveloped countries in the world, it's the one sport they can afford to play because you really just have to have a ball that you can kick around. Where football, hockey, those different sports, it costs a lot more money to play those sports. That's why it's going to be popular worldwide. It's the cheapest sport to play. Sorry, bro.
I need to trigger Robert more often.
Doesn't matter. It's still played in one country.
I mean,
It's
I wouldn't
not-
say
it's-
it's cheaper to play than the other sports, Pinky, but
Just like-
it
Just like
is-
baseball, it's not a world championship. It's a national championship.
That's such a I'm not. You can't. That's
It's played
talk
in one
about a
country.
Napoleon complex argument. Like, just
He's
silly.
proud of his team. He's proud of soccer.
I'm just saying,
We'll
soccer
allow
is
it.
a
We'll
worldwide
allow it.
sport.
Do
Baseball,
you hear
again,
me?
the only thing
do
that
you
matters
hear me
comes in the
calling
MLB
the
is
MLS champs world champs?
I don't call them that at all. It's a fucking minor league.
Because they're not. They're
It's
not.
a minor league.
Because
It's
they
a minor
literally know
league.
they're not the best league in the world. Like, that's how it works.
Actually, let me take that back. It's not the minor league because that would imply it's younger people. So it's the retirement league because all of the major superstars just come there to retire and make a few $1,000,000 at the end. So it's the retirement league. My apologies.
I actually call it the Pro-Am League personally, but
It's the retirement league. It's like the Senior Open of golf.
do you know what a Pro-Am is?
The pro amateur, yes.
No, it's where professionals and amateurs play in
Amateurs
the
get
same event
together. Yeah,
That's
but
what MLS is.
it's still a
Because
retirement
you're
league.
talking about these guys being retired and coming over, but they're the professionals, and then the ones that are already there are the.
in their retirement years, because they're playing like 50% of what they were in any of the other leagues they were playing in.
The reason I won't call it a retirement league is because all of them, when
Get
they
paid
first came
stupid
over,
money.
could have still been playing in the top professional European leagues.
You know, I will say, I think to give Robert credit, I mean, he's still learning a lot of these new sports out there. He's a lot like those soccer fans. They're so singular focused about being, soccer fans that they're trying to broaden their entire, horizons to, get a little bit more involved in terms of watching sports a little bit more. So, I at least appreciate, that Robert is, always so willing to talk about, other sports. And
Hey, all I'm saying is until Canada becomes the 51st state, it doesn't matter. It's still a national league at the end of the day because it's a national hockey league, not a world champion league. So just want to,
anyway,
it's still based in the U.S.
Thanks a lot, Cam, for trying to get us all triggered. This guy.
Anyway,
This guy.
You're
so
welcome, buddy.
there's trade
Hey.
talks.
Congrats to Stuttgart. Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Deutschland.
Über alles.
Caleb.
I've lived there, so I can say that, okay?
As can I.
I lived in Stuttgart, so I can say that.
Isn't that special?
Where you want to go, Caleb? Super Bowl,
Anywhere
trade?
but we just were, because, argument.
Oh, those are always so much fun, though.
Domination is not the Kansas City Chiefs.
I say we want to break down Super Bowl in its entirety and all the things and the things. So
Let's go, Eagles.
we
The Chiefs are
probably
rigged.
go ahead and discuss the NBA, the trades, the things that are happening within that league right now, and say at the hour mark or so, we just kind of cut wherever we're at, and we can
Literally
transition
cut.
to the football.
So whoever's talking, since I have the
Boot
power,
'em.
Pinky has the power. Anyone, if we hit an hour and Caleb's talking about the we could literally mute him and just remove him from the chat completely.
So can we put a bet on this on who's still talking? Because my pick is Caleb. And he
Actually,
gets kicked.
I
Oh,
would actually
dude.
pick me.
Cam and I are both minus money for sure.
I would pick me. I ain't messing around. I would pick me.
I appreciate the honesty.
I mean, there's just no bones. I do an hour and a half show. I used to do a 3-hour show called the Cameron Parker Show. It's going to be me.
I mean, we do 3 hours on it. Cam, we spent 3 hours talking about nerd stuff.
Exactly.
I know. I
It's
listened
fun.
to that whole episode. I was like,
And it was fantastic.
It's
it was
fun.
pretty good. It
Good
was pretty good.
times. Good times, yeah.
So yeah, that wasn't there.
We'll talk NBA, Pinky. For those that have been living under a rock or just getting back from some wilderness survival trip, or you just got rescued off a deserted island, congratulations on coming back and having access to social media and the world that is sports entertainment.
Hold on. You guys have no idea. I was blackout drunk. I wake up at
least you're honest.
4:45, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? No, this can't be real. Somebody's got to be messing with me." And I start looking at Bleacher, and it's it's everywhere. And I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god."
Yeah.
I was not blackout drunk, but I was asleep. I was actually I was literally sleeping, and then I wake up and something that almost rivaled Peyton Manning signing with the Broncos almost in terms of earth-shattering news happens, and
This was bigger than Peyton Manning signing with the Broncos.
and then no, but I'm just comparing it, but it's just
equivalent.
It's on a similar level.
but and then you got Adam Schefter being a complete tard, and basically saying that this compares a little bit to a divisional trade between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals involving Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Like, dude, what the? No, this is not at all like the that kind of trade. So, by the way, if you guys I might try and talk an entire episode just by doing that. By the way, if you guys
Pinky and the
Fun.
Brand. No, I'm just
Fun.
kidding.
So, for those that don't know what we're talking about, Luka Doncic was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers for all intents and purposes, it was a first in Anthony Davis, which is just wild that you trade top 3 player in the league
for basic
for an aging star, not even a superstar anymore, an aging star, and a first-round pick.
basically nothing.
25 years old, not even in his prime yet. Or if he is, he's just beginning it. For the next 4 to 5 years is going to be solid prime, prime.
With the Lakers now, with a much bigger market.
We're gonna get into that, but it's wild, and it's so wild that the guy who reported it as the top NBA insider, Sean Sharania with ESPN, when he first got the news from his sources, he thought his phone was hacked. The GM of the Lakers, when this was first brought to him, thought the GM of the Dallas Mavericks was joking, was pulling his leg. That's how unbelievable this is. Then you find out other GMs around the league are blown away because they didn't get a chance to bid on said player, i.e. Luka Doncic, which would have paid them way more than just Anthony Davis and a first. This is the only defense I will give of Dallas for the whole time, and then the rest is just going to be what the fuck. If you get healthy AD, you get healthy Kyrie with the rest of that roster for the rest of the season, and they're playing at their top performing levels, you do have a championship caliber competing team. Okay, that's the end of that. The likelihood of that happening is got to be less than 30%. Has to be. And that might even be being generous.
Hey, Mavs fans, you do know, though, if you cancel your season tickets, they will give you a refund.
Absolutely.
That came out today. Get your refund, guys.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to be a part of this. I don't even know how to describe this. Of the recent trades we've seen, Rudy Gobert, Mikal Bridges,
way overpays for both.
So,
but okay.
I just want to say, like, Pinky and I are big numbers guys. Math, while as much as we hate it, yeah, we're L7 weenies, Cam, at the end of the freaking day. It's fine. I'll own it as squints. It's okay. When you have sports games that are made and the algorithm is built into the game and it breaks the game for this trade, there's something that's not quite lining up here in the real world. So reality here, there's something that is behind the scenes that I know Caleb's going to get into that really changes a lot of what us as fans are thinking, because when it comes to something as simplistic as ones and zeros at the end of the day in a video game and it can't process it, there's something that's not right. So this is a very unbalanced trade that at the end of the day, no one can really quite understand, because on paper, in any algorithm, it doesn't make any sense as to why this would happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty wild. Big Mike, I'm gonna disagree. I know there are people out there saying that, but I do not believe Dallas is a better team now than they were before Luka.
But I see what he's saying, though, because we said this last year in the finals or during that whole playoff run. Luka was so ball dominant and always had to, everything had to go through him at all times, that sometimes he never got the rest of the team involved. So if he's on, that's fine. When he's off, they're awful. And
you're not
that's
wrong,
to watch.
Okay? You're not wrong, but you know the flaws and you know the holes. So instead of moving on from said top 3 player in the league who's in his prime or just beginning his prime, you make trades to combat and counteract and fill those holes rather than just getting rid of said player because whatever reason they came up with in their heads that will conspiracy road down here in a moment. But the point being, this is the way I look at it. If you want to talk Anthony Davis to Luka Doncic, just one for one. Don't worry about the team construction, what's around them, salary dollars and cents. Just player for player on the court, who would you rather have? You would rather have Luka. And anybody saying otherwise is out of their goddamn mind, okay? Anthony Davis is 6'11", 7'1". Luka is 6'9". So it's not like there's this huge, center to guard difference that you could talk about as well. AD could be more dominant. No, AD's not more dominant. AD requires somebody to get him the ball to even begin to hope to be dominant.
Like a wide receiver in the NFL.
If he's having a good night, he can be really good. If he's having an off night, he's not great. Luka, the ball is in his hands to do with whatever he wants with it all times. Does it? Yes. One of the flaws being stick in his hands too much, and I hope he grows and learns from that and plays more a la Jokic, if you will, than say Russell Westbrook in his prime or things of that nature, where you're dribbling until the very end of the shot clock and then throwing it to somebody. So there's things he can still learn and grow from, but he's 25. This is not a 33-year-old who's like at the end of his prime, who's a top 3 player. This is a 25-year-old in his prime. They already had the defensive pieces that they could have worked with. They had 2 dudes that they can play at power forward or center in Gafford and I'm going to draw a blank on the other guy's name. Kyrie hit and miss if he's in the lineup, but when he is, their chemistry actually was way better than I thought it would be, and I talked about that last year. I gave him props for that. They needed to move the ball more, get more guys interacted, though, and that was part of the problem. Look, I said Dallas, if all things work and align and are at 100%, this gives them a really good chance to compete. But they still have a hole when it comes to scoring because Kyrie can score, AD can score, but AD needs somebody to get him the ball, and Kyrie's not one that scores in the flow of an offense. He needs the ball in his hands to work with to score. So it's not like he's really going to be setting up AD. So you still need somebody to either facilitate that offense or to be that third scoring option that can just shoot from the outside when they kick it out to you kind of thing. So they still have some needs.
Didn't they just trade for somebody else too?
Yeah, I haven't looked quite yet. I haven't quite looked at everything else yet. But look, again, Luke is 25. Another hole. Defense. It looks really bad at times. Like bad at times. But he's also shown he's capable when he wants to put in the effort. So he can grow from that a little bit if he wants to. You don't make this trade. You don't. And the only reason you make this trade, and I'm going to say it flat out, and I don't care what anybody tells me, there is no basketball mind sense or reason to do this unless, period, they got Caleb Martin. Thank you, Big Mike. Yeah, good call. That's a 3-and-D guy kind of, so that's a good pickup. That fills the hole I was talking about. The only reason you make this trade if you're Dallas, and I don't care what anybody tells me, I will believe this regardless of whatever stories come out, it's personal. And the GM of Dallas, for whatever reason, has a personal vendetta against Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
But why didn't he send him
There's no other way around it because they started moving on and firing guys that he was close with within the organization that had been there for multiple regimes. Strength and conditioning guys, athletic training guys.
It was personal. Why didn't they send him to a shit team? They sent him to the team he can make the most money with endorsements and what he can do out in LA. Like,
because
that's really
GM
the worst
of the
place
Mavs
for the
really
league to
thinks he
send
got
him.
a steal in Anthony Davis, and it by playing Anthony Davis at the 4 instead of the 5, like the Lakers were doing, he truly believes that he got the missing piece with Kyrie and what they added in Caleb Martin and everything else, that they're going to be able to go win a championship. He really believes this gives them a better opportunity to win the championship now and going forward. I can't, like, by all accounts, side story real quick, the GM of the Mavs is the same dude who, according to everybody who was in the room and knew what was going on, absolutely butchered the Steph Curry proposal with Nike, and is the reason Steph ended up leaving Nike and going to Under Armour and doing his own thing. So his first act of GM was blowing the Jalen Brunson deal and basically pushing Jalen Brunson into New York rather than keeping him in Dallas. It's starting to look like a failed misstep after misstep right now, and it's ugly. It's wild.
So what do you think about the reports? And again, I think this is coming from Dallas to try to alleviate him being such an idiot of the Lucas fat and his conditioning concerns.
I
did see an article about that, which I thought was pretty wild.
Real quick, and then talk about the article, Robert. I heard, I can't remember who it was now. It was a former player, one of the podcasts or something. But he basically said, look, you can say that and talk that all you want, but you don't play an NBA game and go out and do 30, 15, and 10 and not, then I don't know what in shape is.
Right.
Like, And he's so right. You don't go out and play a full NBA game and put up those numbers, and then people are like, well, you're out of shape. Like, is he in the best shape of his life? No. Okay, maybe not.
But if you can play, you can
be honest. Luka's a little thick.
And fine,
Luka's a little thick.
You know, like it
all right, whenever
maybe. He also plays
you're
a lot
ready.
of minutes. He handles the ball a lot. Like that wears on you through the course of a season. So there's all these factors that go into that. But I love that quote because I feel like it's so true.
Which again, the article that I'm referring to, Caleb, really plays into that because it actually came from ESPN. Is that the Mavericks are going concerned of his weight because I believe it was pushing 270. With what this is saying, and that he was as exactly, and with what Caleb was saying with strength and conditioning, that over time can tax a guy. And if you're really looking for a championship way to go, and your star player isn't up to star quality, that can have an impact. Whether or not that's true, I'm not an NBA guy. I don't watch Luka. That's just what I'm reading. But it's a very interesting concept.
He's a thick guy.
Oh, absolutely.
He's not.
I think he's the sixth heaviest player in the league or something like that.
It's just a wild concept to think of. Like when you think of like, because like I mean I don't know whether or not it's true or not, but like you think of like just like even for one like the players that are even out of shape and how ineffective they are. Like it also goes to like there's probably some credence to it being out of shape. Like for one, you look at Zion Williamson, right? Like he's pushing 5 bills probably right now, and he's like he's like ineffective. I mean, like he put up a pathetic performance against the Nuggets, obviously altitude and everything, but like still like it is just he's not a good basketball player, but also like he has the bad weight distribution. And then you also look at James Harden, right? That's probably one of the better examples. You look at James Harden when he was with the Sixers and he got fat for like, was it like a week or so, like a week or 2 weeks or something. And then he randomly gets traded to the Rockets and then goes off or something, or may have been.
No, he went to fat camp, showed up late to Rockets camp, way overweight, and got traded to Philly.
It was the reverse of that.
Houston,
yeah. But and so then when you even look at it on the flip side, just from the Nugget side of things, obviously it's a very famous talking point on X and Twitter and everything. But it's like just the fact of like if you think back to a couple of years ago, or a handful of years ago when the Nuggets came out and the reports were coming out that Jokic was overweight and everything, and so then. Just processing that. And so like, I think it was the Connolly years, but just like picturing like Connolly walking up to Nikola Jokic and just saying, hey, you know what? You're pushing 3 bills. We're going to trade you if you don't lose weight. It's just such a wild concept that you can't believe. I mean, I'm sure that they challenged him. Obviously they challenged Jokic to lose weight, but like, I don't think you challenge someone to lose weight and be like, oh, if you don't lose weight, I'm sorry, but you're,
here's what, and this is what blows my mind, and it tells me pretty quickly whether or not you really ever played sports growing up. Because this like DK Metcalf, like Greek god sculpture look is actually abnormal for the body of an athlete.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes is much more common. And because you may not look like you're in the gym 24/7 does not mean you're not athletic, in shape, and have plenty of stamina and endurance to go out there and play the game.
Right.
Jokic is a good example. People are like, oh, he really slimmed down in the offseason. Like, and I'm sitting there going like, like if that dude lost 5 pounds, cool. Like what he did do though is he spent time working on lateral movement, short spacing, quickness, and agility, and things of that nature to allow his feet to better move on the defensive end. He didn't necessarily get in better shape, lose weight, and trim down kind of stuff. He just did things to better pace himself during the course of a game, and then he did work on his stamina for the course of the game. But he never really lost weight per se.
Right.
But
it's just, I agree with you. It's
Luka's the same way. I think people look at him and are like, oh, he's heavy, he's fat. Like, how big is LeBron again? LeBron 6'9", 270. Like,
pure muscle, but yes.
But still, 6'9", 270. Like Luka is 6'9", 270. Okay, like it might look a little bit different, but it's not that crazy to think, oh, you're that big and you're that big. It's not that wild.
Yeah.
I think back to I can't remember who it was. Somebody and Michael Finley ripping that beer out of Luka's hand.
Yeah, I saw that video. He was like, "What
that
the
was
fuck?"
the GM.
Yeah,
That's the current GM.
After they won the Western Conference Finals, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What a video to look back to now.
Like
Right?
that. Everybody said at the time, and I said it. I said it was a bad look. Something didn't look right there. But whatever. They just wanted him to not do it on camera or something. Move on. So be it. I like one of the first things I thought about when I heard this trade is that moment. Like, dude, there's been some shit behind the scenes going on in this organization since Mark Cuban sold that it feels. We all know Luka was Cuban's guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was his next Dirk, and he has talked about 100 times publicly how if he had to pick between the two to start a franchise again with, he would pick Luka. And he's told Dirk that to his face, and Dirk's hit him for it, and they joke about it. But he would choose Luka's his dude. He's come out since, and he doesn't know what to say. He's confused. He doesn't understand what just happened. Like, since he sold the team 3 years ago, and started ceding control, power, decision-making, things of that nature, I'm convinced this GM has a vendetta against Luka because it's been slow and steady, weird things happening ever since to the boiling point of this.
Send him to like the Hornets or somewhere shitty if he has vendetta.
I don't even want to hear that. I don't give a shit. Why didn't the Lakers give 2 more firsts?
Yeah.
And Reeves.
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking an even package, there are pieces the Lakers could have given you that would have been like, yeah, that makes sense why they
and even then
that. But you didn't. And here's the crazy thing. Another side note. And there's so many rabbit holes. I'm just gonna be all over the place until we hit that hour mark. There's talks that the Dallas GM, and I haven't mentioned him by name this entire time for a reason. I think the guy is foolish, and I'm not even gonna. You want to know who he is? You go look it up yourself. I'm not giving this guy airtime. The Dallas GM reportedly wants Durant. And the Suns are open to trading Durant by all accounts, it sounds like. If that's your grand scheme, why'd you only get 1 first and AD? Why didn't you grab a couple more firsts so you could pull that deal off and go trade that for Durant? Like, what would I'm so, like, none of this makes sense. Here's the thing that does make sense. Conspiracy, and then I'll quiet and let you guys go off for a minute. This deal was made by billionaires for billionaires to wealthanize more billionaires. And what I mean by that is the league knew it was good business to put Luka in LA. Plain and simple. Because you put him in LA, it is the biggest, most powerful sports market in the world. His jersey sales, I heard, are going to go from like 6th to they're definitely going to go to 1st. The entire international market blows up because we all know the bandwagon effect that the Lakers have. They're one of those teams.
It's always funny how they always end up in the playoffs, isn't it?
And it is going to just skyrocket and explode. So they did it for those purposes. That's why the deal looks so bad. They didn't really care on paper. They just needed to get Luka over there. They did a star for star, they think, and they move on. They don't care what anybody says. And if they're going to make a lot of money off of this now because of the revenue sharing and generational exponential that it will garner overseas.
And it continues to keep the Lakers important because LeBron's gone in a year or two. And if Luka can get his body into where it needs to be and be awesome, that keeps the Lakers pretty good, right? Yeah. So, I mean, although I don't know who's going to play defense. I mean, they weren't great on defense with AD, and AD's pretty good on defense. They're really not going to be good now.
But it is wild. I know we talked about the trade packages and everything that happened, and doing some like the one that also makes it just based simply on the other trade that we'll probably end up talking about. But like the Zach LaVine trade, right? Like the Zach LaVine trade, and De'Aaron Fox, and going to San Antonio. That trade even was bigger, than in terms of the Kings' return, right? It was way bigger in the grand scheme of things with the Luka Doncic trade. So it's still so wild to think of, specifically a Doncic trade, and even looking at, that kind of trade would fly probably 10 years ago. That's not at all what the market is. Like I'd have to look back at the trade package, but what you saw probably with the Doncic trade and everything was almost comparable to, the Chauncey Billups, Allen Iverson, or something like almost like, to that effect in terms of like the 3-team deals that were like back in the past, like, 10, 15 years ago, right? Not anymore, right? Like not anymore. Like you're talking about way more returns, financial returns, cash returns, picks returns, protected picks for like, 5 years. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, I don't know why, some teams have continued to do business with Sam Presti in Oklahoma City, because like the way that, they have completely set up their future, like they're one of the lone teams in the NBA right now where their future is, for all intents and purposes, set.
Yeah. So conspiracy number 2, and this is going to sound like a Homer thing. I understand I'm wearing the hat. I apologize, but if you haven't heard this already, again, I feel like you've been sitting under a rock. It is very well known that Jokic and Luka are really good friends.
Really close.
They're very close. The likelihood of I thought Luka ever leaving Dallas was never. If he ever had come to free agency, it was just a matter of negotiation, new collective bargaining was coming into play or something, and maximizing dollars and cents. He was always staying in Dallas. So anybody that had the pipe dream of seeing those two play together somewhere, it was never going to happen, because Jokic was also never going to leave Denver. That door's now opened. And there's a couple different reasons why. One, while I understand it's LA and Luka idolized Kobe, he idolizes LeBron, it's the Lakers, the legacy, the history, everything that goes with it. They also haven't really been the Lakers as of late. That organization, front office, ownership hasn't exactly instilled confidence within anybody in the league that they are still always going to do what it takes to get it done to win year in and year out. That there's no longer that fear, if you will, of the Lakers being able to accomplish that, like a Yankees, a Dodgers, kind of thing that they always used to do. So that is a problem for the Lakers. The other problem here is they can't offer him the Supermax. And that's where Dallas really screwed Luka here, and why I think it's personal. And I'm tying that all back in now. Like that pinky segue, bitch. That it's that's what champs do. So because they traded him, he loses basically $100 million roughly on his next contract maximum dollars that he can sign for. So if the Lakers can't sign him for a Supermax and everybody else in the league can sign him for the same max contract, the Lakers have 3 years to basically prove to him that they're going to be always and forever in title contention now going forward with him at the lead. Or if the Nuggets keep being competitive and Jokic is still there in 3 years when that contract comes up and that player option exists.
You would assume so.
I'm just saying, like,
no, I agree.
I'm not trying to be Homer, okay? Again, I'm just saying there are legit paths now to these conspiracy theories of how people thought that would happen to being legitimately door open. And it's wild that what I thought was like you heard people say he's going to play for Lakers because he idolized Kobe and stuff. I was like, yeah, right. No, he's never leaving Dallas. And I truly believe him when he said he was never going to leave. He thought he was going to retire in Dallas. I think he loved it down there. I think that was his joint, his team. Mark Cuban traded for him.
Yep.
Paid up to get him from Atlanta. They took Trae Young. They moved Trae Young in picks to get Luka. That was Mark Cuban's dude. He was the Dallas Mavericks now. He was not leaving. So the fact that these things are possibilities, the dollars make sense, which is crazy. Really good friends with Jokic. Denver doesn't have to win per se. They just have to show that they're going to do what's necessary to stay competitive and be in the top of the Western Conference year in and year out, which is the Lakers have not been. Okay? They haven't. And that's a problem for them. Here is where the Lakers can shine a little bit, though. he has talked about many times how he idolizes LeBron. And one of the things LeBron is known for is the amount of money he spends on his body year in and year out to be as competitive as he always had throughout his career and maintain this absurd dominance with longevity. If Luka really believes that and he's willing to take some of these things to heart, the amount of things he can learn not only from LeBron and his IQ in the game, regardless of how amazing Luka already is, you can always learn from somebody like that. But to learn how to maneuver in the offseason to keep your body ready to go through a full season and the things he's done that have worked, if Luka picks some of those up, and it's LA, and you can win championships, and what it does for your legacy when you win there, and Kobe, and they always acquire greats, and that's how they continue to build and dominate, and this, that, and the other. You get where I'm going? Like, there are a lot of positives for LA for him to stay there. But I'm just saying, I feel like I'm pointing out obvious things of why he could end up leaving.
Yep.
And it does, again, not being a homer, but one of the most likely destinations would be Denver because of
that sounds like a homer take.
It does, and I know it does, but
it's something they've talked about.
Completely absurd.
Yeah, but
both Joker and Luka have talked about playing together, so it's not a complete conspiracy take.
I'm a basketball version. I don't know.
They have that opportunity based on, like Caleb said, the financials. The Nuggets could offer him about as much money as the Lakers can. They'd have to work. They have to figure out in 3 years their salary situation.
Well, you wouldn't. It's what's crazy, Pinky, and why the rabbit hole gets even deeper is when contracts for Jamal, when MPJ, when Aaron Gordon, when they come up and due to pay the piper again, Lucas happens to come up within the same areas and ballparks to where, oh, you want to move on and you want to acquire this and pair that with that, I'm okay.
Well, and like, not to go quickly on like a Nuggets tangent, but associated with Doncic there, but it's just like, I think but like, that's where I think the Nuggets are finding themselves currently, right? I think the fact that they've been a homegrown team, that they built basically the strong nucleus of very good players, like, you know, they're very good players. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, getting Aaron Gordon. Like, getting Gordon was just a very different stuff in terms of the timeline, having the homegrown talent. It was basically, to use the comparison, the Golden State Warriors trading for, you know, Andre Iguodala, you know, that Nuggets legend, Andre Iguodala. But like,
don't call him a Nuggets legend. Don't even. That's so gross.
But anyway,
traitor. You can call him a Nuggets traitor if you want to.
But anyway, I think what the problem that the Nuggets are going to find themselves in is that they're going to be capped with their homegrown talent at some point. And so with where they were with Golden State is like, they took that next step to go get a Kevin Durant, right? And so I think that where the Nuggets need to find themselves is to still capitalize on that Jokic timeline and keeping him in Denver. That's where the Doncic thing now has those legs and an open door where they have to be a little bit more adventurous, and they probably should be more adventurous now, you know, in terms of, like, you know, continuing the timeline and wanting to win more championships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like, there's going to be that point in time where the rubber meets the road for the Nuggets, and they have to make those tough choices.
Yes, I was going to say, I know you saw that.
Yeah.
I mean,
wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. And if you really want to dig into it, there's numbers that back it up. But basically what I'll tell you is MPJ is having one of, if not the most efficient season as far as offensive scoring in the NBA this season out of all players. So he's having a career year. He's actually having a really good season.
He's a good player.
As your third scoring option, he's great. The problem is when you see so much inconsistency from Jamal, you have Russ, who's also very inefficient and inconsistent, although he's been playing better than I had anticipated him to. The bench is non-existent. There's a lot of holes that people want to, for whatever reason, always go back to this MPJ.
The bench has been better over the last...
It's false.
The bench has been better over the last 3 weeks. Again, I don't know if that's going to be enough to carry them to where they want to be, but it has been better. They
And-
keep getting a little bit more from Brown, Watson,
Yeah.
Strother.
I will say the
They
game
miss
again.
Holmes.
I will say the game against the Pelicans, though, obviously they were significantly shorthanded, just to say for what it was worth. But like, I think those are the types of games that should get you excited about MPJ. Like, because like,
Najee had 30 minutes.
but I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna go to MPJ, like those games should get you excited for MPJ. The way that he can possibly take over a game, because like he is so streaky enough that when he's on his game, it's like Jamal Murray, right? Like if Jamal Murray is in cohesive nature with Jokic, and then Porter Jr. is falling behind, they're a really hard team to stop. And I think that specifically MPJ obviously was a couple years ago, but you look at when the Nuggets won the finals, that game 5 against the Heat, they don't necessarily win that game against the Heat if it isn't for the performance of MPJ in game 5.
I'll give this last thought and then we'll move on. Big Mike, no. No, and this is why I say no. If they get to the playoffs and he can, for whatever, however, doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned, find a way to be playoff Jamal again.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter what he does in the regular season. You put up with whatever seed and record that requires you to get with him there. Because Jamal has proven time and again, and I don't know how he does it, but time and again he proves that in the playoffs, in the biggest moments when the lights are the brightest, he is one of the most clutch players in the league. Period, bar none, end of story. So Nuggets fans got to learn to deal with the frustration of the regular season, and they also have to understand that, and this is what gets me frustrated because I love Blue Arrow. I love me some Blue Arrow, big time. But it's the same thing that happened to Klay Thompson. That injury that he had to his knee zapped his legs.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the same, lack of a better way of explaining it, ability to get up and get off as he used to on a consistent basis. Some nights his legs are going to be there, sometimes they're not. And it all goes back to the moment that injury occurred. It's not that he's playing worse. It's that if you truly watch the game and break it down, when his shot's off, you can see his legs aren't there. So it's not like he lost his game. His body just isn't able to perform at the insane high level that he had set before the injury occurred. And it's going to cost us some games. And it's going to cause some frustration. But plain and simple, if he can show up with Jamal Murray, playoff Jamal, I'll put up with the regular season frustration. I just don't know what to call you. Big Mike, you crazy, man. You crazy. I'm gonna be kind.
Look, I'm frustrated with Jamal.
Jamal in air quotes. Like, what are we, dude?
I'm frustrated.
Did you not
with
watch
Jamal,
what the dude's done in the playoffs over the last 5 years?
except for
since
last
the
year?
Bubble? Like, it's absurd.
That ankle injury last year, he was not good against the Wolves. He was good against the Lakers. He was not good against the Wolves.
The whole team wasn't good against the Wolves, outside of Jokic. If we're being perfectly honest, you have a 20-point lead at halftime of Game 7 at home, and you
Literally
blow it.
took your foot off the gas.
I'm not gonna there's a lot, and Mike Malone has just as much blame in all of that as anybody else, because whatever he said or did in the second half was wrong,
right?
Along with the poor play from everybody else. So it is what it is. But we will talk about the other big trade, the Fox trade, and whatever else happens before Thursday's trade deadline. Next week, we'll, obviously we're Super Bowl breakdown, and then talk some.
We'll have our Kings Insider on soon
NBA
as well.
Trade deadline and everything, and we'll really break down the rest of that. But I told you, we're gonna Luke that whole Luke at the, and there's still, you guys don't even understand how many crossroads I still have to discuss about this, and we're just gonna have to wait and do it next week with Greg on. But
it's a lot.
It's wild. It's absolutely absurd. All the different things that I still haven't broken down and discussed and pointed out. And it's like every day, you're watching some show and they're breaking down another aspect of another thought I had. And I'm like, damn, they're just going to do this all week and it's going to be glorious because I'm just going to get to listen to like every thought I had. They're not going to do it all in one show. They're just going to do like each thought every day of the week and just really go at it. So yeah, there's still plenty more to discuss there. The De'Aaron Fox trade is crazy and how the Kings messed that up. Greg and I actually talked quite a bit about that over the weekend at your party, knowing that was coming. So there's a lot to discuss still with the NBA, and obviously All-Star Weekend and all of that goes into it. That's coming up here soon as well. So we'll start talking a lot of basketball, and then all the NFL offseason stuff is going to be topic heavy here soon.
So going from trades from the NBA, we have a trade that can possibly occur in the NFL. Myles Garrett has asked to be traded. And he's probably a year too late on this, but I mean, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. Let this man free.
Yeah, I said it on 5280. You know, I mean, it's in his best interest to leave Cleveland. There's no doubt. You know, and be freed, literally. But I just think that we also have to remember that there is a timeline where he still stays with Cleveland. You know, and I used the example, and it was a Broncos related example, but like there was a point where Joe Thomas was supposed to be a Denver Bronco. It was centered on Shaq Barrett, and you know, Joe Thomas was supposed to be a Bronco, like right around, like I want to say it was like the Peyton years, right? He was supposed to be a Bronco. Trade fell through for whatever reason. The trade fell through. Thomas thought he was a Bronco, and it never happened. And then he ended up staying with the Browns his entire career, right? And may as well, I think he actually did get in, but may as well end up going down as, you know, one of the best left tackles and tackles the NFL has ever seen. Garrett finds himself on the flip side of that defensively, you know, one of the best defensive players that the league will ever see, defensive player of the year candidate year in and year out. I just think that, you know, it's in his best interest to certainly move on from Cleveland, but I just wouldn't put it past Cleveland for it just never to happen, because there's just so many just wild things that have always happened with Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, he's the defensive player of the year, right? Best defender in the league. Like, that's not something you usually move on from, especially when they're in their prime. It's also, I think I heard something like a $36 million dead cap hit or something if they move on from him.
Mm-hmm.
They're already dealing with a lot of cap issues for other reasons that we don't even need to go down the road of right now. Like, everybody understands that.
Yep.
So it's how big of a bullet do you want to bite, for what reasons, and what timeline are you looking at? Pinky, you know how I feel. You know my decade requirement, if you will, when it comes to winning and losing. If you want to keep that cycle, I'm good with it. So that being said, look, Cleveland's in a great position right now. I actually believe that if they want to just come out and be like, dog pound, here's the deal. We screwed up, but we can fix this, and this is how we're going to do it. And you dump Watson and you eat it for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You trade Garrett for, God, probably you get at least 2 firsts minimum, and a second and some other stuff. Like, you can get a good haul for Garrett. You might move on from Jerry Jeudy right now with the way he finished the year with an actual quarterback playing behind him.
Denzel Ward, like, move him too.
Ward. You start moving all the possible assets you have that give you
jockstrap
early round picks, and you build for 3 years out. When Deshaun Watson is no longer on your books, that it's going to hurt you, and you acquire a free agent quarterback, you draft one at that time, and you start building around epically, because you've wasted Chubb's prime. That offensive line is old now. It is no longer the best in the league. It may not even be top 10 anymore, depending on how you want to look at it. At times, they're really good. At times, it looked really bad. So there are things that really lean in favor of everything pointing towards Cleveland has to trade him. But it can't. That's the kicker here. If they stop at just trading Garrett, then they already failed. They already failed. If they if they go all in on this and really do say we're going to suck for a couple years, but we're going to have a bunch of really high round picks and we're going to be able to rebuild really fast, we're good. Here's the last thing I'll say, Pinky. There is a flip side to this where you keep Garrett, you eat the Deshaun Watson situation, but you go ahead and draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders if you believe either one of them can be good and a franchise quarterback, and you reset immediately right now, which you can do.
Yep.
With what you already have on the roster going forward. You're just going to eat a little bit of money. You got to be smart with the rest of your picks and how you play free agency. But you could very quickly, if one of those two dudes is a franchise quarterback, turn it around and be really competitive because, again, Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the league. So how do you want to play it?
Yeah, there's just a lot of avenues there.
How do I play it? I do cut Deshaun Watson. I do trade Myles Garrett. And I sit there and I pick up Andy Dalton. I pick up the red rifle to come play quarterback. So it looks like it's just competitive enough and still get the number one pick. And now I can have my pick of Arch Manning, Klubnik from Clemson. There's a lot of decent quarterbacks coming out next year. I'd rather kick the can a year because we're going to suck whether we have Cam Ward or not.
Sure.
So might as well just kick the can, build up your assets.
Hey, the way I see
Trust
it,
the
I'm still going to
process.
be taking the Browns to the Super Bowl at least every day for the foreseeable future. So, like, we're good.
And I know you said Andy Dalton red rifle, but that's too old, Pinky. Let's modernize that a little bit. Daniel Jones. You signed Daniel Jones, and then you make it look just good enough to go ahead and get that first pick still.
I was gonna say, or just bring back Jameis Winston.
I think J-Mo might win some games. I think Joe Flacco might win some games.
No, I just think of when you're talking about competitive, like it's Winston. But no, I just think you're right though, like because again, like just from a fan side of things and just the fan of Garrett, it's in his best interest to leave Cleveland. There's no doubt about it. And I also think that from Cleveland's side of things and the them being in the world of suck for the last 70 years, like they need to like restart like immediately. And the best way that they do restart is starting to, ship off contracts and, move on from players.
Quick side note, Cam. 70, I think, is a little too far. I believe they own the 50s and part of the 60s. Let's give them a little credit where credit's due.
I was
Granted,
simply
it was before the Super Bowl existed, but nonetheless, 70 might be a little. I think we could go 60. 60 could be a fair.
Obviously,
that's a pipe dream, my man. Garrett is not going to want to get traded to a team with no quarterback.
I disagree, Pinky.
72-year-old
and I think you're just saying that, Jack. I know you're the Raiders guy. Pinky hates anything Raiders. He doesn't like anytime anything good is mentioned about them. But I think people are wildly.
Whoa!
Nope.
Whoa.
Wait, hang on.
No! I will not let this slander go. Since they moved to Vegas, I do not hate the Raiders. I don't.
Yeah, I think you still do. You just like Vegas. I think we can easily separate.
I'm just into
the fact
being
that those
real.
Things are.
I will say.
I'm being real.
I will say though, if the Raiders and the Browns can come to some sort of deal where they get Miles, it would be a nice gamble for Vegas.
Yes, and here's the deal. I think people are wildly underestimating the impact Tom Brady has within that organization. I really do. And I think he can sell a lot of players on, look, I'm the one pulling the strings here, even though I'm not the majority owner. He's going to listen to anything I say, and I know how to win. I know how to build a team. Look what I've already done. I put these people in place. This has already changed. Look what we're doing. And on top of that, it's Vegas. So it's, decent weather, a lot of opportunities for young men with a lot of money to have downtime places to go and spend.
Good night, homie.
And on top of that, they were ranked last year. I think they were like number 2 or 3 when it came to overall facilities. When that big poll came out across the league, and Kansas City was awful, Arizona was awful. Vegas was like top 5. I think they were top 3, if I remember correctly, in facilities and accommodations. So there is a lot going for Vegas right now. And yes, Pinky, you're right. They don't have a quarterback. But I said it before, and I'll continue to say it. Vegas really wants to hit the ground running. They do a trade like this. They use their pick on Ashton Jenkins.
Their pick's gone. It's going to Cleveland. There's no way you're getting Myles Garrett without the 6th pick. It's not happening.
You're probably right. Okay, so then that pick's gone. Fine. you get Garrett for the 6th pick. I think that's a fair trade-off. You add him on the opposite side of Max Crosby. You go pay Sam Darnold. And that's either going to be a great move and he really does continue to get better and you have the pieces in place to do so, or it was a gamble, it was a one-year wonder, and you do have to reset and the experiment didn't work. But there are ways for the Raiders to make this instant microwave, we can compete with anybody kind of style. But again, we say this about a lot of teams, Pinky, and they don't go all the way in or all the way out truly to make the plan viable. Caleb, and that's what always causes the issues.
You make sense, but I don't think the Raiders are in a position to maximize making a trade like that for Garrett.
And I would imagine that with it being Garrett, I would at least imagine that the list of teams that he wants to go to, the Raiders wouldn't be fitting that particular category. Because like the teams that he would want to go to would be, the playoff contenders, so I would venture to guess that, one of the teams that he would want to go to is, funny enough, one of the projected landing spots for Max Crosby, and that would be the Detroit Lions. I would think that, the Detroit Lions would rather be high on his list, I mean, and specifically from the standpoint of, Detroit and wanting to maybe take that extra step a little bit. And then you put Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson on, on the same line. Like that's a pretty formidable defensive line at that point. And then you also look at it from the standpoint of, they're still in the line of competing. So the first round picks aren't really going to matter. So like
Pinky, Cam, who's the Raiders head coach?
It's Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll.
How did he win last time things went really well for him in Seattle?
I get it. No, I definitely get it. But I'm just saying.
You're telling me you arguably are going to put the 2 best defensive players in the league on the same team, on the same defensive line, on opposite sides of the line?
No, I'm saying
that he can't find a quarterback that can go out and win him some games with that. Like, I think people are drastically downplaying what the pitch could be from the Raiders if they really want Myles Garrett, and him being like, actually, I'm down with that.
No, I mean, it's quite the gamble for Vegas. There's no doubt. But like, I just think that, you look at it from the standpoint of like, if I was Garrett, I would be looking at, maybe a couple, Washington team, like Washington. I would probably
Detroit.
Detroit. I mean, Washington specifically, because, for whatever reason, if they need to, pay him, another contract extension, but also take on his contract, right? Because like they're going to have loads of money.
He's underpaid at the moment. Like Nick Bosa's making $10 million more than Garrett.
We want to be honest. If I'm putting my money on anything, he's ending up somewhere nobody's talking about, and they're going to do it thinking they're going to be able to convince him to re-sign long term because they have this amazing plan. Like Jacksonville pulling some crazy move, Chicago. Right? Like they're going to look at him and be like, "Look what we have now. We got the QB. We got the right coach finally. Blah 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 blah." And then he's going to be like, "Yeah, I told you guys this wasn't a good idea. Free agency hits. I'm out. Bye." Like, I think that's what's going to end up happening with this situation because that team is going to be willing to slightly overpay to bring him in. Where a Detroit and stuff, look, if we're being honest, that's where everybody wants to see him end up, right? It's like the perfect fit. Him and Aiden Hutchinson. It might be the 2 best defensive players in the league, given the way Aiden Hutchinson started the year last year. No different than him and Max Crosby. It'd be insane. It'd be dangerous. Everything would be so dynamic. It's not a move Detroit needs to make. If their defense is healthy with the picks they already have that they can go use on the defensive side of the ball and really shore up the depth and the constant ability and starters and things of that nature and spend the free agent dollars better than bringing in Myles Garrett, when you really think about it, it actually probably doesn't make sense for Detroit to bring him in. I'd say the Texans for the same reason, Big Mike.
No,
it doesn't really make sense for them to bring him in, given what they can do with the dollars and the picks.
But they already have
great young players there in those positions.
They have Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter already on the outside.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like where if you
bring
Garrett in, where are you
Detroit,
putting Hunter?
They want to see these names, and because of it's like, oh my god, it'd be so crazy. Like, if I'm being honest, the one that I do see where you're adding into another great defensive player that does actually make sense is the Raiders. And I Pinky and I had talked about this off camera. Like, this isn't something that I'm just saying because Mr. Kenna brought it up.
It's look, it's not a horrible idea, but I just it's a gamble, and I just don't know if that's a gamble that's going to pay off.
Yeah.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't see him going to one of the teams that Vegas has listed as the top people. I just don't.
Well, and it isn't so much that I like about dismissing the Raiders, because it's like there are factors with the Pete Carroll, and possibly, riding that ship and getting him, to competency, which is basically all the Raiders need.
That's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, and whether they get Garrett or not, the Raiders will be brought to competency or more, with Pete Carroll. My thing is just based on its current standing. I just don't know whether or not the Raiders, are going to be viewed as that viable option based on its current viewership. I think another team that I would certainly look into, and it's still the AFC, but they never played with one another, in college. But I would, maybe, look at maybe the Buffalo Bills, and you compare, Von Miller, and you compare, Myles Garrett on that defensive line. Obviously, they got Gregory Rousseau.
They cut Miller if they make that deal.
Maybe
they cut that. They cut Miller and use that salary towards Garrett if they make that deal. So it makes sense, but Miller won't be on that team anymore.
But I'm more just like listing teams, that I would, if I was a team, I would be wanting to, and specifically just from the desperation side of things, right? Obviously, you need some offensive pieces, but just I would be wanting to be making as much moves as I can. So if I could, to still stay in that Super Bowl window. And that's why I mentioned Detroit, Buffalo,
absolutely. Those are your, I feel like, dream scenarios for Myles Garrett, but I just feel like that's not how this is going to end up going.
I don't know. If there's one thing about this Luka Doncic situation that's taught us, everything that we know has been a fraud.
I got a team, guys. I got a team. A team that is willing to say, F them picks.
Yeah, and not the Rams. They're not gonna.
They could, though. I'm just saying.
They won't. I fully believe they've done that. So yes, technically it could be an option, but I believe they are fully in the mix of a rebuild. The whole Cooper Kupp situation that just came out and everything else that goes with it. They're trying to build back up picks, dollars back into the books so that they can reload again. They're not going to tear it all the way down because they know they have some talent. They've drafted really well to do so. So they're in a good position.
Yeah.
But I don't think they want to take on that kind of salary and lose those kinds of assets when they feel like they're stepping in the right direction. And Garrett doesn't put them back to Super Bowl. That move alone doesn't put the Rams to Super Bowl.
It
absolutely does not.
I mean, they were in the playoffs this year without him. I mean, I'd say it at least helps.
They'd still have a few holes, man. Puka is still your only wide receiver. The O-line has some questions. That secondary is holy at best a lot of the times. Like, Garrett doesn't fix those problems for you. Your defensive line wasn't the issue last year for the Rams.
You add Garrett to that defensive line that was really good last year.
It helps the secondary.
Those corners look better.
I both agree. Trenches do everything for everything. Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you there. So cheers, my guy. Absolutely.
But yeah,
it's just another team like you said,
it's
we're not thinking about.
As much as I love Garrett, he's not Donald. The reason Aaron Donald was so absurdly amazing and why I think he is, I don't care what you say, I think he has a legit argument to be talked about as one of the 3 best defensive players in NFL history because everything he did was from the interior. Everything he did was from the interior of the defensive line, not the outside like Garrett does. And to put up the same numbers as Garrett, basically, but doing it from the inside, it's absurd. Absolutely absurd.
It's pretty awesome, man. So that's a fun storyline. It is something that, again, came out. I know Radio Row was a buzz about it all day today. So, and will continue to be all week. So it gives them something to talk about. We do have the Cooper Kupp situation, which they've made it apparent they're trading Cooper Kupp. There's so many teams that could pull that trigger. It's more of taking on the salary than it is the draft picks. You won't give up a lot for him. It'll be a 5th round pick or something like that. So the picks aren't really an issue.
It's not even a player either. It's just
Yeah, it's just taking on whatever salary would come over,
and then whether or not
it.
the Rams want to eat some of that.
Right.
So
it's something that I think somebody will get Cooper Kupp, and somebody would really do well. The Chiefs would make an offer for Cooper Kupp. Like, that would suck for all of us.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp with Xavier Worthy.
I don't think the market's going to be as big for Cooper Kupp as people seem to imagine it will be.
Well, and I'm actually looking at it from a different reason. I'm not saying, like he's going to be. I'm just use the Broncos as an example here. But like, let's just say that the Broncos and Cooper Kupp and the Rams, agree to a trade. Well, it's just like, I think that the way that things have unraveled, if you will, with the Rams, and Cooper Kupp, and the way that they've acquiesced, Kupp's request for a trade, Kupp wanted to be traded, etc. So like, it seems like there is a very common ground about them moving on. That to me lends that on the Rams side of things, they have the parameters of the trade that they want to pull off. They just have to find a trade partner. And then at that point, you can start pinning down, okay, like, where do you want to go, Cooper? You want to go Denver? You want to go Kansas City? Where do you want to go? I know one team that was mentioned was the Chargers, and I actually don't see that because one, you have Ladd McConkey, and I don't envision Cooper Kupp wanting to go to basically the same type of situation that he already had with the Rams, which is basically a player that is his same type of, comparison, if you will, on the other side. I figure he want to go to a situation where he doesn't have someone that's a bit comparable to him on that other side. He wants to go to another team like that. So I just think that like we will get a result sooner rather than later regarding, this whole Cooper Kupp situation. And obviously we know that's like got about a month to work out, which is still
What's
pretty
the
soon.
price for him?
I think it's definitely somewhere in the range of like at the highest a third round pick, I'm saying the highest. It probably wouldn't be where I go, but like fourth, fifth round pick is probably where I would want to go.
Man, like, I mean, I guess that's kind of the thing. Like, what are you willing to give up to bring him in? But I think anything over a fifth is an overpay. I do think he's talking about. Step. I don't think I'm not even going to call him a 1A, 1B anymore. He's a 2. He is a 2, and I think what people are going to find, and I hate saying this because I like him a lot, but I think it was the perfect fit system player, and he gets outside of that system, and I don't think he looks quite the same. I still think he's a really good wide receiver, but again, I think that's part of the reason I'm saying he's a 2. Like, he's not going to be your top guy. And
no, he's not a 1, but there was a lot of times this year he was wide open, and Matt Stafford only had eyes for Puka, and Puka's open too.
Here's what I'll do for you, and people aren't going to like this, but I think they're very comparable, and I think had this guy been with Stafford and McVay, he would have put up very similar numbers to Kupp. He's Adam Thielen. What are you willing to give up for Adam Thielen right now?
He's better than Adam Thielen.
I don't think he's a whole lot. Better. I think people are forgetting how good Adam Thielen was in Minnesota.
Adam Thielen's awesome.
And he's actually still underrated if we're being
right.
Look what he did last year with Carolina in a bad situation.
Look, I'm an Adam Thielen believer. Cooper Kupp's better than that, bro. I think you're downplaying Cooper Kupp.
I think Cooper Kupp's really good, but again, I think a lot of it has to do with system and situation.
Injuries too. I mean,
and then I was going to get there. I figured we'd bring that in, but yeah, his injury history also is a big concern.
Oh, Jack, none of that's really an issue. None of the major guys left. We're fine.
All right, Big Mike, you, my guy. From this inside information you've been throwing out there all night, so now Thielen is significantly better than Cooper Kupp take is. If you want to take Thielen over Kupp, I can listen to that argument. I just said that, but to throw words out like significantly better, where are you coming from, my guy? This is fabulous. Just great. Thank you. But like, if I'm being honest, I don't I would not give up whatever the assets are that require to get Cup. I wouldn't give them up. And if he ends up getting released and you want to play that gamble and see if you can sign him off that as a free agent, fine, bring him in that way. But I don't think it's worth giving up assets to bring him in, especially if you're Denver, for multiple reasons.
And again, I would love to have Denver be interested in them. I'm just saying that I was more just speculating a scenario, not saying, anything like that.
All right, let's get to the Super Bowl. We got 30 minutes left, so let's get to that.
Let's start right at the top with everything that's being talked about right now, from Kelsey to the NFL and Goodell to the Ref Association Union.
Because Cam came on the show, I've got to ask him, how cool is it that on Super Bowl media night, all the Chiefs players and coaches get asked about Bo Nix?
I mean,
no, absolutely. No, we're not talking about this. This is not.
I'm just going to mute him for a moment. I didn't ask Caleb. I asked Cam how cool that was, because each one of the players had such glowing remarks for him. And I'm still wondering, why were media people asking him asking Chiefs players about one of their divisional opponents during the Super Bowl week?
Well, I mean, for starters, I wouldn't necessarily be asking about Bo Nix, but I think that's the beauty of Radio Row. It's almost like a mini owners convention, players convention, for a week, because everybody's there, celebrities are there. At some point, I would love to just kind of experience Super Bowl Radio Row. But I mean, as a Bronco fan, you're kind of, you're ecstatic. I mean, specifically from, you look at Steve Spagnuolo, for example. I don't need to dive into all the players, but you look at, Spagnuolo, it's this is now his third time that he will have praised Bo Nix, right? So yeah, so
I don't talk things above my level, Big Mike. That's too deep in the weeds there, man. I'm not to that level. I'm still a baby.
Cheers, Big Mike.
See, and this is why Robert sticks to football, not
nerd
not
stuff.
football.
I'm more into nerd stuff than anything.
We're not talking Lions
let's
football,
be
so
real. Hey, the Lions just disappointed because injuries. And
so I just wanted to bring that up.
Now they're
as a funny moment.
The Lions are gonna be shit again. But let's get back to the Super Bowl before Caleb busts a brain vessel.
I mean, he already busts a brain vessel
did,
anyway, but I
it's
mean,
fine. We gotta get back to the Super Bowl.
I hate when we stoop to the level.
No. See, all Pinky is doing, Caleb, is in this realm of podcasting or doing radio shows, it's about pandering to your audience, and that's all he's doing. Is he's just pandering to his audience, or to the.
There was a bigger audience to pander to, and he chose.
Hold on.
Chose the low hanging fruit.
When my Twitter,
the one I was softballing up to him.
When my Twitter timeline has Chiefs players consistently being asked about Bo Nix.
Why does your Twitter feed have Bo Nix being discussed from Chiefs players? What? Your algorithm is set up to give you that news.
He's also a Bronco fan, for what?
Your algorithm isn't set up to get all sports news across a general platform of objectivity.
We follow
your stuff is
teams.
Straight through the orange lens and then spreads out from there.
But I think the whole point is just if you're a Bronco fan, you're exciting. It's exciting. I mean, I just think that
Cam, you know what I haven't seen on any of my news feeds? Chiefs fans answering questions about Bo Nix.
Hey, whoa! Not Chiefs fans, Chiefs players. And
my bad. Chiefs players. I haven't seen it on any of my news feeds. Not one.
And I think that's a tribute to your algorithm.
I've seen it. I mean, Caleb, I'm gonna have to weigh in here. I'm sorry, man. No, I have seen this, and I wasn't sure if Pinky was gonna bring it up. I wasn't gonna do it because we weren't gonna be talking Broncos stuff. But yes, no, it has happened. it is happening. ESPN is reporting on it, as Big Mike has already said.
Expect
It is a
better
very
from
big
YouTube.
topic to talk about.
Cam,
No,
if Ted
don't,
brought
no,
it
no,
up,
no,
I
no,
would've been like, well,
hey,
look at it.
we
Look
are
at the
talking
guy.
about some
Come
of the
on.
biggest things in the news, and when it's Super Bowl week and Bo Nix is in the conversation and not Super Bowl, sorry, man, there's something to talk about there. Sorry.
There's not. There's literally nothing to talk about there. There is some stories to discuss, and we just spent 15 minutes discussing Bo
Caleb,
Nix.
You tell us what story you want to talk about.
I already softball lobbed it up to you, and you said, no, hang on. I want to ask Cam about this first.
That's a Super Bowl topic because it is a Super Bowl week. They're doing press conferences for the Super Bowl. They're talking about Bo Nix. That is an absolute topic.
Anyway, the whole point is, as a Bronco fan, you should enjoy it, revel in it. It seems like the Broncos certainly have their quarterback. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah.
Don't make it weird, bro. When we have awkward silence, you make it weird. Don't make it weird.
All right,
What do
so
you
has
wanna talk
anybody
about?
seen like the highest bets for the Eagles to beat the Chiefs? Because that's just insane.
I have not,
Caleb.
Robert. Tell me more.
So, actually, some like the Vegas lines for this have actually been pretty wild to look at. So I actually first read this on Fox Sports today, and there was some people going in on $800,000 for the Eagles to beat the Chiefs, which I'm all for. But like, damn,
Hasn't the line moved to the Eagles now?
I
will look.
Yeah, please look because I haven't looked. But man, if that, I'm not a huge like fan of the Super Bowl anyway, but I hope the Eagles beat the Chiefs.
What the fuck did this guy just say? He just said he's not a fan of the Super Bowl? What?
I didn't say I'm not a fan of this Super Bowl. I could care less about either teams.
Okay, that's better. You gotta break that down. You can't just say that.
And to top it all off, I usually mostly watch the Super Bowl for movie trailers, and the movie lineup this year sucks. So the commercials are gonna suck. That's how it's gonna be. So I'm not excited.
DraftKings still has Chiefs by 1.5, but I thought
Disgusting.
the line had moved.
Disgusting.
Those
Favoritism.
kinds of bets sound like bets that are specifically made for the line to move, and then they go on the other side.
Also a sign of favoritism. Might be slightly biased on that.
I mean,
hey, the NFL officiating crew, they're like, we're not biased. We have so many people
Oh.
on this prep. Oh yes, yes, I hit
if
the
you
card.
have $1 million to throw down, you're probably putting $1 million on the Chiefs. I'm just saying.
Unless you're Drake. Wait, who did Drake bet on? Who did he bet on? And whoever he bet
Ooh.
on, I'm betting on somebody else because he
That's a
loses
good question.
all the time. That's
a
where
good
I'm putting my
question.
money. Whoever Drake did not bet on.
Super Bowl bet.
Caleb, how's your blood pressure? Is it okay?
Good. I'm doing good.
I'm sure.
I love Caleb. He's in a world of thoughts
He's in a Zen mode.
or anger. One of the two.
He hasn't bet yet. He bet last year. He bet on the Chiefs to win, and they did. So.
Oh, so he has won sports bets. Just not boxing.
Wait. No, that was last year. So last year.
Big Mike, I don't know what other Marvel movies are actually happening this year, to be honest with you, because they're really pushing Captain America. Otherwise, and then Daredevil, I think, comes out later this year, but that's a TV show. And we've already seen the trailer for that, so I don't know what else is to come.
We'll save that for the end because I think you wanted to talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, Thunderbolts is a trailer.
Yep.
I mean, we've already seen some of that too, so
I know we're getting was it the Jurassic Park trailer this week?
fantastic. Why didn't we save this to the friggin' Super Bowl?
So they
What the hell?
they release some of the commercials and some of the trailers before the Super Bowl and then play them during the Super Bowl.
All right, so yes, no, I'm gonna need a moment for this
Like-
at the end then, because
Like the Shane Gillis Post Malone commercial and Peyton Manning is a
Whatever.
Super Bowl commercial, but they released it early. So,
Well, I'll have a thought about that. But anyway, go on.
all right, Caleb, what do you want to talk about, bro?
The Super Bowl.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Let's go. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Commercials are an essential part of this. That is American culture. What else you got, homie? Bring it.
So let's talk about the Super Bowl. You guys talked about Bo Nix. We're talking about
It is Super
we're
Bowl
waiting
week.
for
That is
you.
what is in the media,
Like-
homie.
Help
Go
me,
ahead.
help you. Help me,
Go ahead,
help
go
you.
Go ahead, Caleb.
I don't even pick something. I've lost. I've
Oh
lost.
my gosh.
What are the
original
what are,
train of
what are
thought at this
the
point.
what are the top excuse me, what are the top matchups when you look at this Super Bowl and you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, do you feel like the Eagles actually have an advantage given the fact that they played the Chiefs before, and the storyline of Vic Fangio being 8-0 on the opposite side, I should say 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes? Like, do you actually think that there's some advantages here with Fangio coming from Denver and all the opportunities, even though we lost, of facing Mahomes, and now he's got a better unit defensively and et cetera? I want to hear Caleb's answer since he's been quiet, and this is now his time to yap.
Hold on. I believe there was a comment that I was quiet for 30 minutes just to point
Yeah,
this out.
Actually, you were quiet for more than 30 minutes, if we're being completely
I
honest.
was, because I was not trying to get into the measuring
He's watching
contest
Michigan
today.
State lose.
Anyway,
But there's still 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Last time I checked, Michigan State's ranked higher than Kansas.
Anyway,
yeah, he does some shit.
go ahead. Caleb.
Cam, I think to answer your question, jump into the game itself. I think the trenches is, for me, the most interesting matchups on both sides. The Kansas City offensive line, which they kind of fine-tuned, Tooney moving out to the left tackle, and that kind of seemingly shored up a lot of the issues they were having on the offensive line, against that Eagles defensive line that has continued to improve game over game throughout the course of the year. Really, that front seven just getting a whole lot better as a young unit. And then you add on that secondary that has just been killing it, from that front back inside out. That Eagles defensive line and back end is looking really scary. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup there. But then on the opposite side, you look at Chris Jones and the boys and Spag, and a really damn good Eagles offensive line, maybe the best in the league, in that run game, and not having allowed a 100-yard rusher in their entire Super Bowl playoff run, if I believe correctly. I mean, that's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. So you look at those two chess matchups, and that's exactly what's going to be, given the coaches, the coordinators, and what they've proven to do over the life of their careers. Those are going to be serious chess matchups. And if I'm looking at where you draw a line and you nitpick to have to say who has the advantage, I think the end-all be-all ends up being Andy Reid, and him being the advantage in that chess matchup of how you look at moving those pieces on the trenches around.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pinky.
Well, Andy Reid is better than Nick Sirianni, without a doubt. He's better than most of the coaches in the league, without a doubt. The Eagles do have the advantage on the O-line and the defensive line right now. And if we want to be honest, Jawan Taylor's the biggest liability that any O-line has in the league, because that dude jumps off sides, jumps early every single play.
But they don't call it, though.
They don't. They call it once, usually once a game. And then he also lines up further than you're allowed to as well. They usually call
There's a
that
lot of
once a
teams
game.
around the league and a lot of guys who are doing the same thing. So let's not.
But now, again, there is. But if you watch every single game of Jawan Taylor, which I've watched a lot, he is literally not lined up properly, and he also gets a kick step every single play. But on top of that, he's not that good either. So that's he's a big liability at right tackle. That having your best left guard have to move to left tackle is a big liability. That Chiefs O-line is worrisome. Now, when they played the Bills pass rush is not really that great. They really aren't. And their secondary had some injuries. If they'd have played a team with a pass rush, I think they would have had some more issues. They didn't. Patrick Mahomes had time to throw the ball. I am thinking there is a possibility we see Mahomes have to run for his life during this game.
He's going to have to use his legs, actually, for them to win.
And he uses his legs in the playoffs a lot. That's one of the things that's underrated about his game. He doesn't do it as much during the regular season, but in the playoffs, that dude runs really efficiently. He doesn't get as much credit for it, but if you watch every single game that they've come back to win, it's usually a big run from him that has been a catalyst for it. And that is kind of an X factor in the game. Like if you give him open space, he takes it.
And what about you, Robert? The most knowledgeable ball knower of Marvel Rivals
Yeah.
that I know.
Absolutely.
Moon
Knight, best player.
What say you about this Super Bowl matchup from the X's and O's and the Jimmies and Joes?
I mean, I'm not as knowledgeable to take apart the players in the trenches like you all are, because I'm still learning.
Come
all that
on.
stuff. Hey, no. But no, really, all I have to say, frankly, is I'm excited for the matchup. For what really is going to happen, like from contextually, from what I've gotten from everybody from just this whole season, and just really seeing what the Eagles are going to do. Mahomes might be running for his life, but I also think that there's going to be quite a lot of offensive weapons that just kind of happen for them because, you know, the refs are helping them. Just kidding. But on a real note, no, I really think that the Chiefs might actually have a real good chance at it. They have been playing some pretty good ball in the postseason. But Saquon Barkley's a beast. He is the god of football right now. And I don't know if the Chiefs haven't quite the answer for him. And I'm pulling for the Eagles. So that's really where I stand on it all.
I'm going to throw this out there, and this is why I brought up Andy Reid to begin with and not players or, you know, specific game schemes. You realize in every Super Bowl the Chiefs have played with Andy Reid and Mahomes, they have one play that they have ran in every single game in a goal line situation. It's just been a separate variant of that play.
Absolutely.
And multiple players have come out, including Mahomes, and I believe Andy Reid has basically said it without saying it. They're going to run it again this game. Guaranteed it's going to happen. They're not going to tell you when, but they're going to run it. And it's going to be another variant of that same play. That's absurd. That's absurd. And everybody knows it because it's been talked about. It's not like what they're saying this year leading up to the Super Bowl is news, and everybody's like, oh, damn, now we got to go back and watch it. Everybody knows what the play is. It's been talked about before now. It is something that is obvious. It's prevalent. But when you can do that time and again, and it's still effective and dangerous, it's one of those things where it's like, you think KC's shown their true offense this year? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, they've been kind of holding back and we're about to see another level to what they're capable of right now?
But it's not domination.
Maybe. But I just based on what we've seen in terms of sample size of the regular season, the reason why they're in the Super Bowl this year is not because of Andy Reid. That's just my opinion.
Spagnuolo.
It's because of Steve Spagnuolo. And, a few things here and there, like, making the play, not multiple plays, if you will, or having a great game. Just a few plays here and there as far as like winning the football game offensively. I think the thing for me, it does lie in the trenches. Like the Eagle, simply put, the Eagles of this year are better than they were 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl that started the whole Chiefs repeat. Nope, they're better. The second,
I would disagree with that point because I actually think their defense 2 years ago with Gannon running it from the Cardinals and their offense with Steichen from the Colts running it were at a much higher level of efficiency than they are right now.
I won't say the offense was at a higher level of efficiency, but the defense was really good. And you had Graham. Graham's not playing in this game, but
Fletcher Cox ain't playing in this game.
Maybe.
Huh?
Fletcher Cox ain't playing in this game. Jalen Carter wasn't in this game 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know. I think the Eagles
there are pieces
team
that were playing in that game that aren't playing in this game that were really good pieces still. I think this is a really good defense.
Look,
I think it's younger though, and I think that inexperience is something that maybe people aren't talking about enough.
Dreamweaver.
And I think the Chiefs' defensive line is being underrated. I think Karlaftis, opposite Jones, is actually slightly underrated. And Jones' experience and how dominant he is actually being a little bit underrated, I think, as well.
If you watch games, you would know Karlaftis is a pretty good player. He's a big hustle player. There's nothing special about his game, but he's a hustle player.
My thinking is just when you look at the team and they're young and they're hungry, Sean Payton said himself, that's a very dangerous combination. And when you look at that defensive line, they are, and we can talk about the inexperience, and it might matter in the Super Bowl. But when you look specifically on this run and in the playoffs and the way that they've been playing,
Jalen Carter's been awesome.
They have been incredible. Nolan Smith has been incredible. Jalen Carter's been incredible. Zach Bond has played at a very high level.
Cooper DeJean, Kenyon Mitchell, they've been absurd. They've been playing great.
So I think while I understand the inexperience, you also have to look at it from the way things are, and the best possible thing you could give inexperience is experience along the way in the postseason. And so I think that, the fact that Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and specifically some of that back end are playing at such a high level, that's a big deal going up against the Super Bowl, and specifically knowing the fact that you have a coaching staff, specifically under Sirianni, where they were there. You can lean off of the experiences of your head coach there so that you can understand, okay, this is what happened before. This is what we can tweak things and do things a bit differently. And so I think that the fact that from what they've been able to play with, I don't think the Eagles necessarily had the secondary. That's where I kind of tip a little bit more so, is that they didn't necessarily have the secondary as much in that first Super Bowl, where you have this one with Darius Slay and Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So I think that there are just more opportunities now for possible matchups to be had from the defensive side of the ball. And I just think that, the other factor is the biggest elephant in the room. They didn't have Saquon Barkley in this, in that last Super Bowl.
So let's talk about two things, because Barkley is where I wanted to go next, but you hit on something that I want to throw out there to Pinky and see if he remembers and discuss it a little bit before we go to Barkley and all of that chess match that is involved there. Pinky, what was always my biggest gripe about Vic Fangio's defense?
He plays too much prevent, death by 1,000 cuts defense.
Bend but don't break. And he's on record for basically saying that's what he wants to do. What do the Chiefs 9 times out of 10 end up doing to defenses that give them opportunities over and over again?
At this point over the last 2 years, 3 years, they've been very methodical of just taking what the defense gives them, moving down the field and getting their points.
So you would say most likely the outcome of those two situations is more likely to have the break than the bend.
Yeah.
So the problem here is, while Philadelphia has some really nice young pieces on defense and they have been gelling and playing better, the person calling the defensive plays, while good defensive coordinator and can put guys in good positions, those positions are such that they allow opportunity. And you're now playing a team with a quarterback and some pieces in Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins, and then the head coach calling the plays, that are more than willing to take advantage of those opportunities time and time again. And that worries me. That worries me a lot if I'm a Philadelphia side believer.
There's so much to Saquon's the guy, man. If Saquon does what he's done this playoff run, they should win by more than 10 points.
That's the great thing, though, and I love that we started in the trenches and then we're kind of moving out there, because what has Casey not allowed in this dynastic run? And I mentioned it earlier, 100-yard rusher. Have not allowed it. Now, I'm not trying to say they played anybody on the level of Saquon in this offensive line in this run game. By no means. But that is something they very much want to take away and have done a great job of taking away from the opposing team.
I'm trying to think.
So if you hold, let's say Saquon goes over 100, but you hold him to 120, that sounds like a pretty good formula to start. Is it winning? I don't know, but it sounds like a pretty good start to that formula.
I don't know, man. If Saquon's getting 120, they're moving the ball.
You know, I just think that when you look at everything that Saquon has done this year, and it's one of the reasons why I guess you could just say, you know, he is the MVP for me. He's just like every single time you've needed the big play or the big moment or everything that has tipped it into that favor, he's delivered. You know what I mean? Like he's just clearly I said something, you know, and Caleb walked away. It's just, this is perfect. But, you know, I just think that every single time you look at the season and you look at the way that he's been performing, like it just feels like it's this year, or sorry, not it, that it's his year, and that it's his year, and just how uncomfortable it would be if you're a Giants fan, you know, seeing the Eagles win a Super Bowl, you know, knowing the fact that you could have kept Saquon over Daniel Jones is just, it's a wild concept.
Saquon is my MVP as well. And if Saquon finishes off this Super Bowl with a great performance, he will have had the best running back season of all time.
Yeah, because he's 30 yards away from breaking Terrell Davis's playoff rushing record, which
it's not rushing. Yearly full season total all-purpose yards.
He's already passed that.
Yeah, I think this is playoff though, isn't it?
So he's already passed Terrell Davis because he's at like 28 something total scrimmage yards this season.
I heard he was like 30 yards away or something, but
he's 30 yards away from Terrell Davis's playoff amount. Yes,
absolutely. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
was that so like it just goes to show you, like when you look strictly, you know, overall, like the fact that Hurts at least has that safety net, you know, I think is going to help him, you know, and hopefully, you know, this is an experience that I think, you know, Jalen and, you know, I think I hate to use this as a comparison because it's a completely different league. It's a completely different football league, but it's one of the reasons of, you know, what made the Ohio State Buckeyes just so unstoppable is that when you factor in the play level of Will Howard with the weapons of, you know, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka, and then you factor in a Trevion Henderson, you know, and Quentin Judkins and Judkins, like the playmakers, when they are just playing at an all-time high where there's nothing you can do about it, they are a very, very hard team to beat. For the Eagles, if Jalen Hurts is having a very efficient, decisive game through the air, like, you know, and we talked about it even like when when I was on here, we talked about that playoff game with the Commanders and with the Eagles, and you know, Caleb even brought it up, and we all brought it up, and just saying that, you know, they're going to have to dare, you know, Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. Well, what happened? He threw the ball and delivered, you know, and I hate to say this again, but just every single time we doubt Jalen Hurts, he delivers. He delivers. And so, you know, so I think that the fact that you have a game where they clearly have gotten there, and so I think that they are once again going to have to win with his arm. But if they do so, you can't beat that team because you pair his arm for what he can do with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Like, it opens up so much for you with Dallas Goedert, and then you factor in the running game. They are just a very unstoppable force that once they get going, the best defensive coordinator in the planet can't necessarily stop that.
For the record, he's Saquon. He is trying to break Terrell Davis's single season rushing record. Regular season and playoffs included, he's 30 short of that. So we're all kind of wrong, but in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Look, if we're being honest, I don't think there's any way you can shut down Saquon in that run game. I don't. I think you contain it. And that's why I gave out the 120. I honestly believe if they can hold Saquon to 120, 130 yards rushing, the way you win then is by holding that pass game to 200 yards or less. And if you can do that, I believe you've done yourself a really good service of being able to maximize your opportunities and win the game. I also believe that's something Kansas City can do, and not necessarily because of the pieces they have or the names they have on defense. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen it enough. I'm not going against it. Spag as a defensive coordinator, I'm leaning towards being the best in the game, or at least in that conversation, just simply because of the way he's been able to game plan and call games over the last 4 years. And Andy Reid. Those two together, game planning, making adjustments at halftime, in the middle of a quarter, calling the plays at the exact right time. I mean, look at that play Spag called to end the game against the Bills with that corner blitz.
Right.
Like, it's just the ability to do things at the right times and the right moments is not something you can learn. You either have that innate ability or you don't. And it either you're lucky enough that it works out for you or you don't. I don't call it luck, call it skill, whatever you want to call it. Andy Reid and Spags have that in spades right now.
Yeah.
And I will lean towards that being the outcome over Saquon and Jalen going off to the point where they can do enough to get by.
So, Caleb, we got to finish it up. What is your prediction then? What are you saying is going to happen?
I've gone back and forth with this a couple times as far as the score. I like Chiefs 31-27.
Okay. Robert?
I would say 27-21 Eagles.
Okay. Cam?
I'm going 26-20 Eagles.
I'm going to go, it's 34-31 Chiefs.
I mean, when in doubt.
I hate that.
Goddamn, Pinky and I kind of agreeing on the score too. That's also crazy. Cheers, my guy.
I hate it. It makes me throw up in my mouth. Eagles fly. I'm wearing my Kelsey jersey for the Super Bowl. I'm going to be rooting for Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might want to clarify that ever so slightly. There is still actually a Kelsey current playing on the Chiefs team that's in the Super Bowl. So when you say I'm wearing my Kelsey jersey,
Eagles
sure
jersey,
say
Eagles.
You know, and I will say, like, it's really important that needs to be said is that, like, I'm picking the Eagles because I'm rooting for the Eagles. But if you're looking strictly objectivity and objectively, you can't count out Mahomes. We had this conversation with Brady. The moment you want to pick against him is the moment you want to pick for him and pick the game for him, if you will. So it's just like, and with the course of what we've seen with Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't count them out. You just simply can't count them out. And
Alex, I think that's what's going underrated and not being talked about at all.
I touched on it.
You watch what Kansas City's offense started doing towards the end of the season. They are now fully healthy. Like, I don't think there's a guy on the Chiefs roster right now that is going to be out for the Super Bowl.
But I touched on why the Eagles are dangerous.
Well, I know we all did.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is nobody's talking about the Chiefs being dangerous.
For sure.
Mahomes is there. Kelsey's there. DeAndre Hopkins is there. Worthy is there. Hollywood Brown is back. Pacheco is back. Kareem Hunt is there. Noah Gray played really well as the second tight end. Yes, it didn't look dangerous during the season, but I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this. I think they, what's the word I'm looking for when you fake it? They downplayed their abilities this regular season. I truly believe that's what they did. Now, they had a lot of injuries and stuff too, but I think they kind of just knew they could do enough to get by. They don't have to show all their cards. They don't have to show half their cards. They don't have to give you any tells. I think we're going to see a Chiefs offense that's a lot more dangerous than people anticipate in this Super Bowl.
Take Worthy to score for all you bettors out there. Worthy's going to score. He's the guy near the goal line that they're going to run those speed options for. Take Worthy.
It's going to be, I think that is a major aspect of this game that is not being discussed, and kind of rightfully so because of what the Eagles have on offense and Saquon and AJ, everything you talked about, Cam.
Yeah.
But I think people are forgetting how dangerous this Chiefs offense has the potential to be. And like we talked about, we mentioned death by 1,000 cuts, then over the top, right down your throat in the run game. Like,
The one player that if I was to say a Kansas City X factor for me, and it's, and he's played well, and I have to give a lot of kudos to this, and it might be credence to possibly, if Travis Kelce retires, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like Noah Gray doesn't get enough talk.
Yeah, that's exactly why I mentioned him. He's played insanely well.
So he's my true X factor for, not just this game, but just so far what's been in this season. He's completely fallen under the radar.
Yeah, I'm just like, look, yeah, we're all Broncos fans here. We all get that, but I also am a little bit different in the fact that I don't think the AFC West has any true rivalries, because I believe rivalries are actually born out of games that matter. And for whatever reason, the AFC West never has a team that's good all at the same time and actually battling for a rivalry with games that matter. So, like, to just hate on the Chiefs because they're a division rival, we aren't the AFC North, the NFC North, the NFC North, the AFC North, the NFC East. If you're not in one of those three divisions, I don't believe there are true rivalries in your division. Say what you want, that's what I believe. I also love sports as a whole and history and getting to actually, with my own eyes, witness greatness, not just hear about it or read about it in the history books. So I have a hard time rooting against the Chiefs or picking against them. The reason I'm picking them is just kind of smart money, if you will. Like that's just betting money is why I'm picking them in the Super Bowl. I love the Eagles. I love Jalen Hurts. Pinky can back me up on all of this.
Yeah.
I love AJ Brown. Saquon's my dude. I love, Jurgen, their center, is a Nebraska guy. Like, I love the Eagles and what they've done. We talked about Howie Roseman playing chestnut checkers and so on and so forth. So this has nothing to do with me, like, going against the Broncos or rooting for the Chiefs or not liking the Eagles, anything like that. It's just when I break it down, I just, all things keep leading back to me going, if you're coin flipping this, you're picking the Chiefs. If you have to put a percentage on it, my percentage is, and you have to pick a winner for it, even if it's 51.1, 49.9, I edge towards the Chiefs because of just all the reasons we keep going back to. And I can't talk myself into a scenario where I see the Eagles being able to pull it off. And it's crazy to say that. I can talk about it and I can give you scenarios where it will, but talking myself into it, I just haven't been able to do yet. So I am, in all ways, I think the Chiefs are going to find a way to make some crazy history that we've never seen, and it's going to upset a lot of people.
What I'm sounding like is you're a hater, Caleb, and you need to believe.
Dominance.
Believe.
Dominance.
Dominance.
Believe.
It's not domination. It's bullshit and luck, and the refs
And
help.
rigged.
Yes. First of all,
rigged.
I need you to have a little bit of belief. I need you to grab what exists between your legs, whatever's left, and just say, hey, the Eagles can do it, and show up.
They can.
So, Caleb, I need you to actually, have some big boy talk and believe in the Eagles here, because we're not going for a Chiefs three-peat. As far as I'm concerned, the neighbors to us to the east suck. So the Broncos are the superior team until I say otherwise. Chiefs are garbage, and the Eagles will win. Period. So
All right.
step
I
up,
like
Caleb.
it. I like
Show
it,
up
Caleb.
some belief.
I like it.
Come on. Eagles fly.
Eagles fly. Let's go. Let's make this happen.
Need you to have some pep talks in the morning, Caleb, in the shower. Those are your moments. Tell yourself the Eagles are going to win.
Easy. All right. I do have my final moment as we run down the show. Thank you, champ.
It was stolen, so until it's earned properly.
I have to shout out for my birthday. One of my good friends, Bree and Mike, gave me a Saint Bernard peppermint chocolate mountain spiced whiskey. I'd never heard of this, never seen it. It is a fine Colorado sipping whiskey.
That's
You
very
can
cool.
pour it and sip it. It's pretty good.
Cam, final thought.
Not so much, any sports related, but, don't be lukewarm in anything you do. Be passionate about it. And it's one of the reasons why, it's what makes, shows like this so good. And so in everything that you do, don't be going through the motions. Treat everything that you have with dignity, respect, and love for one another. Treat every job that way. Treat every show that way. Treat your people that way. Love them, respect them. Thanks again for having me on.
Always my guy, Robert. Final thought.
The only thing that came to mind during this whole thing is while I was talking crap about the commercials, the only hope that I do have is that we'll get our actual first look at Tron. But otherwise, I'm excited to hang out with friends for the Super Bowl. It's always a great time. And as always, as much crap as we talk about the Chiefs, Andy will be there. And it's always great to see a friend kind of support their team and kind of experience that. So as much crap as it is, it's exciting. You never know what's going to happen. There's a lot on the line. It'll be a good time.
And Caleb, obviously, as much as, we may disagree on a lot of things, there is, of course, one thing that we will never disagree on, and that is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So throw the ball.
Pinky, give me a second. Your final thoughts, sir.
I gave my final thought, but I'm going to come get my belt, baby. I'm going to get that belt. I'm going to get it from you. You didn't earn that thing. You stole it. I'm going to whoop you down, take it from you.
Stealing implies a couple things. One, that I had planned to do so. Two, that I alleviated you of something of that which you still possessed and wanted. Where I went ahead and picked this bad boy up was one through, you want to say I didn't earn it. I believe I did earn it in the fact that I allowed you to walk out. And two,
whoa, easy.
It was,
I didn't walk out.
No.
Well, you did. There was assistance, but you did walk out. There was some assistance. I'm just saying, it was a lot. Like, I could have ended you. It could have been sweet chin music, straight stunner, and done.
So you could have speared him like Speed was on Rumble.
And on top of that, you didn't seem to pay it a lot of mind. And if it's going to be treated in such kind and fashion, I believe it deserves better. So
what you're saying is, Pinky was John Cena, and he gave you your moment.
Yeah, we keep hearing something coming from areas of the screen, and yet there's nothing visible to put to where it's coming from. So
yes, it sounded like a fart.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we cannot thank you enough for any love, support you show us in any kind and fashion. We cannot thank you enough. We will always say it. Continue to cliche the hell out of this. You want to know anything, you want to talk about anything, you want to hear anything from us, let us know. There's plenty of ways to get in contact with us through social media. Sports Nonsense and Whiskey, you can find us, I guarantee it. On that note, do not take those moments with your inner circle, loved ones, family, friends for granted. It was an absolute pleasure getting to spend some time with that inner circle last Saturday for Pinky's birthday, and it makes you remember how special those moments are. Cherish them, take advantage of them when you can. Until next week, there's going to be plenty more to talk about, I promise you. We're out. Thank you. Peace.